This is a dark day for the AFL. We like the word darkest day. This is a very sad day for the AFL that they are incapable of, in their own mind, marketing Geelong versus Fremantle to 50,000 fans at Etihad Stadium, and that they have put their hands up in the air a week out and said this game is better suited at a 33,000 or 32,000 seat stadium. Yeah. Is there nobody within AFL House who stood up and said, you have got to be joking? First of all, by citing the numbers of last year's final, which I heard, and Brian Cook, I've interviewed Brian Cook, you wouldn't... I know that people often praise somebody before saying something bad about them, but if I started praising Brian Cook, I'd finish next Wednesday.
Right.
But Brian Cook very cleverly played the numbers game on last year's final.
Between?
Geelong and Fremantle.
Right.
And said it was 44,000 at the G. That included MCC members, and it also included series ticket finals holders. If you do all the numbers there, only 10,000 Geelong members went to that game, etc., etc., etc. We might struggle to get good numbers. 32,000 or 33,000 stadium could be the right number, and we're happy to host it. And for the AFL to have either been the people behind that notion or to accept that notion is pitiful. This is a competition that claims to be world's best standard and has enough marketing people to probably put Mac to shame. They can sell... And we've seen it because they put a team in GWS. They can sell Colts to Newcastle, this mob, but they couldn't sell Geelong Freo. It can't be compared to last year's game. Last year's game was 6th versus 7th or 5th versus 8th or whatever it was. It was in the bottom 4 of the finals. There is a completely different dynamic when you've got Geelong, who, by their lofty standards of the last 6 years, don't get the double chance, and Freo coming over with a knockout final. We're talking about the game that could decide the premiership. If you can't market
that game,
if you can't market Fife, Mundy, Barlow versus Bartel, Selwood
and Chapman,
if you can't market
Hawkins versus McFarlane,
if you can't market Steve Motlop the high flyer, if you can't
Michael Walters
versus Walters, if you can't market Ballantyne 3 takes on Geelong again. Remember that there is bad blood between Ballantyne and Steve Johnson. Ballantyne and Geelong do not get on.
Stop it, Mark. You're getting me excited.
If you can't market Ross Lyon
versus Chris Scott,
if you can't market a home preliminary final at Patterson Stadium up for grab, if you can't market that game at Etihad Stadium, then somebody at the AFL needs to fall on their sword. It has been an absolutely appalling surrender for whatever reasons. I'll tell you this, it's a very sad day indeed, when the AFL don't think they can get 50,000 to second versus third. And 2, more interesting, exciting, and well-matched teams you wouldn't find. Piss poor.